Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
So the Orange Bowl will be the second playoff game played on New Year's Eve. Number 3, Georgia against number 2, Michigan. We'll get to our against the spread picks at the end of this brief episode. But Trey, first question, which position group matchup are you most looking forward to?
I'm going with the one that I'm guessing most of the country is kind of anxious to see, and that's I want to see Stetson Bennett go up against the Michigan defense. You know, Bennett, he's coming off of a fairly ugly game against Alabama. His confidence might be rattled. Georgia's confidence may be rattled because of that. But, you know, Michigan's defense, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, probably the best defensive end duo out there, and they're going to be looking to cause havoc. So will Bennett be poised enough to stay in the pocket, or is he going to force some throws and guys like safety Daxton Hill be ready to bat him down or pick it? So that's the matchup I'm anxious to watch.
Okay. I was looking at Michigan's offensive line against the Georgia defensive line because there's plenty of stats you can throw out that show kind of the strength of these units. Well, Michigan's O-line won the Joe Moore Award for the best O-line in 2021, so that tells you something. But also, Michigan had 39 rushing touchdowns this year, whereas Georgia's defensive line, or defense in general, gave up 3 rushing touchdowns. Like, that is just an insane difference. So something's got to give there. And I don't know, I think maybe it'll be the Michigan O-line because, you know, Michigan was best running between the tackles this year. They had 6 yards per carry per Pro Football Focus when they did so. And I think, you know, Georgia with Jordan Davis in the middle is going to take that away. But we'll see. Okay, next question I got for you is just how much stock we're putting into Georgia's loss against Alabama as opposed to, you know, the first 12 games of the season. Because, I mean, I personally am putting, you know, of course, a lot more stock into 12 games than one game, but I for sure put some stock into it because we don't have a large sample size of Georgia playing against, you know, really great teams. And, you know, they showed some limitations on both sides of the ball in that game. Stetson Bennett, you mentioned, didn't have the greatest game, got into a negative game script for seemingly the first time all year, and it didn't go great for the Georgia offense. And, of course, JT Daniels has been, you know, was out for COVID protocols for much of the prep for this bowl game. So I would be surprised if you saw him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it would have to get to desperation time for us to see JT Daniels. And then the other thing I would take away from that game is that maybe Georgia's secondary, you know, isn't nearly as elite as the rest of the defense because, you know, Jamison Williams was able to run wild, and there was a couple times where there was seemingly busts in coverage in that secondary. So, but I don't think Michigan is necessarily the team equipped to take advantage of that. Like, I'm not super scared of their receivers. I am not super afraid of Cade McNamara throwing the ball. Maybe J.J. McCarthy gets a little bit more, you know, they're a little bit more aggressive with him this game because I could see him making some, you know, A-plus NFL type throws. But anyway, what about you?
Well, no, and to your point, though, back to your original point about the Michigan's offensive line, if the running game isn't doing anything, then I'm really not going to be afraid of McNamara through the air. But yeah, as far as your question in terms of how much stock am I taking about that SEC title, I'm putting some stock into it. I feel the exact same as you, though, because they were extremely dominant throughout the year, but they didn't exactly face Murderers Row, so you kind of have to kind of take that into the equation. But I'm not going to overlook the immense talent and dominance that they did display even in those games, particularly on defense. And so I agree with what you had to say. And to their point is Michigan's not built like Alabama, so in terms of their offensive prowess.
Right. So who do you like in this game? The point spread is Georgia minus 7.5. Who are you taking?
I think Georgia's going to bounce back. I think they're going to win, but I'm going to take the 7.5 with Michigan. Michigan just seems to be peaking at the right time. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm not ultra confident in Stetson Bennett going up against a strong defense. Hutchinson or Ajabo will make some plays in the backfield. And Michigan, they were able to control the line of scrimmage and run the ball at will against really good teams like Ohio State, and then say what you want about Iowa in the Big Ten championship. It's
But
obviously
Iowa's
it's
got a
not
really
going to
good
come.
defense, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to come as easy here with like guys like you mentioned earlier, Jordan Davis. But I do think Haskins and Corum can at least do enough. And ultimately, I do think McNamara is going to have a tough time against guys like Nakobe Dean, Darian Kendrick at the corner. So I don't have him seeing. I don't see him having a ton of success through the air, especially compared to what Bryce Young and Bama did. Their offense just isn't as explosive, but I see it as more of a defensive battle overall. So that's why I'm going to take the 7.5 points.
Okay, I'm going to go the other way. I hope I'm wrong. I want to take the points because in both of these playoff games, I'm just cheering for close games. So I will be cheering for the underdog to stay in the game. But I'm just not sure this is a good matchup for Michigan. You know, the physicality of Georgia's defensive front could be an issue for them. I've seen a few stats being thrown out there about how Michigan how much they've struggled with against teams that run a lot of twists and stunts. And, you know, it's been written that that's something that Georgia loves to do. So, and they're as big and strong as anybody that Michigan has faced on their schedule. So have some concerns about that. And I'm sure, you know, when Georgia's on offense, like you mentioned, Ajabo, Hutchinson, they're going to wreak some havoc. But I do think Georgia will be able to run the ball at least better than Michigan will. And so maybe they won't have to put Bennett, you know, in the position where he's going to have to do a lot like he did, you know, against Alabama. So, and it does help that George Pickens, you know, he was kind of we weren't quite sure whether he was even going to be playing in this game with, you know, the COVID protocols, but apparently he's set to go. He'll be there. And you would think he's as healthy as he's been obviously all season. So that weapon could help Hutchinson or could help Bennett as well. So, yeah, I'm laying the points with Georgia. But let us know in the comments, especially if you're a Georgia or Michigan fan. Let us know your score predictions, who you're taking against the spread. And that'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe and subscribe to our podcast as well. If you're watching on YouTube, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places. Leave us a review if you enjoy the show. We would appreciate that. And have a happy new year and enjoy these playoff games.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.